Available now at whitepillbook.com. This episode is brought to you by Patriot Gold. Good afternoon, Michael Malice here. Let that be your welcome for the next hour. We have with us a very, very, very special returning guest, Yeonmi Park, North Korean refugee. Her new book, which I just finished, so we're going to discuss a lot, called While Time Remains, is out this week. Before we get started, I've been waiting to I told you I have a big surprise for you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I have been waiting to talk to you on air for a long time now. I have a book here.
Mm-hmm.
Called Korean Historic Relics. It's from North Korea. Okay.
Wow.
Now someone wrote a poem in it, and now in English the word language is Russian. In Russian we call it Ruski.
Uh-huh.
North Korean and South Korean have different names for the Korean language, correct?
I guess so. Yeah, it's different.
Isn't like one Hangul and one the other something else?
조선말.
That's the North Korean or South Korean?
North Korean is a 조선말. Yeah.
And what's the South Korean name for it?
Hangul.
Hangul. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sending you a poem that was written in the North Korean version in the book. So can you look in your email and can you read that poem and translate it for me? Because I want to know what it says.
Oh, should I bring my laptop to check?
Yeah, sure. That's fine. It's okay.
Sorry.
No, take your time. Don't worry about it. There's a secret here.
So is this North Korean or South Korean?
Yes, that's why I couldn't get someone to translate it. Yeah, there's not that many of you guys around. It's you, Joseph.
You're right. Oh, that's great. How did you get it?
I'll tell you the whole story after. It's a whole long story because obviously, as people might know, getting things out of North Korea isn't exactly easy. You can't, send UPS to pick something up. And contact with foreigners is very frowned upon, to put it mildly.
Okay, 혁명하는 사람은 언제나
Wait, say it out loud so we can hear.
Okay, so let me read it first, okay?
Okay,
read, yeah. 혁명하는 사람은 언제나 인민을 믿고 인민을 의거하면 백진승리하지만 인민의 버림을 받게 되면 100번 퇴한다는 진리를 살라. 투쟁의 하우용으로 삼아야 한다. Oh, it's really North Korean cursive word.
Have you ever heard this poem before?
But very similar poems everywhere in North Korea. This is so North Korean.
Can you translate it then?
So rough translation is, for a revolutionary, they always have to believe in the people. If you believe in the people and rely on them, you are going to always victorious.
Yeah.
However, if you get abandoned from the people, you are going to lose the revolution. So this should be the motto of your life.
Okay.
So, yeah. So it's always like telling the revolutionaries that what is the most important thing is, I guess, the people they serve.
So I want to show you who signed this. Can you see?
Is that Kim Il-sung? Oh my God! Of course, that's why I said, is it Kim Il-sung wrote it? Because I noticed his writing.
Yep, it's a book signed by the great leader Kim Il-sung. So can you explain to Americans what the significance is to a North Korean of someone having a book like this?
So not just a book. Apparently, when I was at school as a child in North Korean school, the teachers would tell us how if the Kim Il-sung writes words, it has a power, a magic power to fly around.
Oh,
and bring miracles. So it's called it's like 장군님 필체 is the dear leader's writing. Even his writing is the most special thing in the whole world. So I think that's why I was noticing that is it like Kim Il Sung, or we like see his writing so early on, we recognize his writing style very early on. I mean, so if you've owned it, I don't know, like you got to be the national monument that nobody can touch you ever.
Yeah, so my understanding is if you have something that he touched or Kim Jong-il touched, you would have it like special in your house and people would come by and look at it and you would have like the most kind of prestige. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there are some factory workers when Kim Il Sung visits the factories or collective farm, if the people get to shake his hand, they don't wash the hand. Because that's a dignified event in your life. So
Wait, how long can you go with that dirty hand?
as long as you can go, so they don't like touch anything. Like go, this hand that touch the son of this universe, right? Like that's what Kim Il Sung is. He's the son of this universe, and not just like touching him. If there's like trees where Kim Jong Il just looked at from far away, and there is a letter said, this is a tree where our dear leader looked at on this time when they visited, so we have to take care of that tree like in a special way.
Why do you think so many refugees still hold Kim Il-sung, the great leader and founder of North Korea, with such reverence?
So that's I think I have a few theories. In a way, when Kim Il-sung got into power, he had a lot of aids from Soviet Union, obviously, and China. And if you like study Korean history, the 60s, even early 70s, North did better than South because of all the aids that he was getting, and initially he was working better than the South. So in some sense, people thought like it was better time. When also there's a lot of enthusiasm, and in the beginning of the revolution, it was less, I think, corruption, but more of the ideology, like fanatics. They really believed that they could bring the socialist utopia to North Korea if they worked hard to become a better revolutionary. So I think Kim Il Sung has always that. I think center about him is like he made things somehow better than under Japanese, and he was kind of liberator. But I think also a lot of us growing up, like I was born 1993, and he died like 7 months after I was born. So I only heard about his time through books. So I think that's the thing, we never experienced his time like in person. So in our mind, he just did all the wonderful things. Unlike the Kim Jong Il's time, life was really hard.
One of the things you talk about in this book, by the way, I want to tell you a funny story. I like making you laugh, and one of the reasons I like making you laugh, and when I wrote my article about my time in North Korea, I think people in America have this idea that people in oppressed countries like DPRK, everyone's always miserable and sad and hungry all the time. But when I went there, it was almost disturbing how much of a good sense of humor my guides had, and how they were telling jokes, and we were having stories, and how normal they were. And we think of people in these countries as robots, and almost in a way it would be better if they were robots, because then it's not so bad. But when you realize they roll their eyes at their boyfriend or whatever, or there's a girl at school who's mean, or grandma is being a pain in the ass, it's so much more disturbing when you see, just even after decades of oppression, they still are trying very desperately to have a normal life.
Yeah, I think that's also in some sense of the relative thing. North Koreans are so isolated that they have no clue how oppressed they are, how unique their lifestyle is compared to other countries. So I think in some sense that does give us like contentment that people don't have here. Like here, a lot of people have social media. They look at the lives of billionaires in the private jet and in the mansions. So I think even though people who make like $40,000 a year or 60 grand a year, they are still so miserable. But in North Korea, because we don't have any information coming in, that we just think that's how the world is. So in some sense, I think that's why no North Korean needs a therapy. Even though their life is so horrible, nobody in North Korea needs a therapy to function in daily life.
You worked with my friend Natasha Simons on this book, and I'm going to tell you another funny story that's going to make you laugh. Natasha is one of the hardest working editors I know. I hope you had a very good experience with her. And she helped me out a lot with my book, The New Right. There was a big trouble incident, and she really walked me through it, and I will always be grateful for her. And I'm going to give her a big public apology because this is a very funny story. There was a book that Simon & Schuster was putting out about a subject matter that I find interesting. It wasn't North Korea, but I won't get into it. And she's like, oh, I had heard her say, oh, we're putting out this book. And I read the book and I really hated it. And I thought it was just a complete mess. And I email her and I'm like, I don't know why you recommended this. The book was terrible and it was terribly edited too. It just needed a lot of work. And she's like, I did my best. I'm sorry you feel that way. She wasn't telling me that they were putting out, it was her book. And she thought I was being mean to her, and I didn't realize she was editing it. I doubt if she even believed me. I was so apologetic. I think I bought her dinner. So Natasha, I'm apologizing again. I know you work. The thing that she does very well is she holds her author's hands. And a lot of times when people have books, the editors just like, go do it. And the author doesn't have a lot of support. Was it tough for you, both with this one and your first book, In Order to Live? Obviously, English is your second language. What's that like for you trying to write a book in a language that's not your kind of native language?
In some sense, this was a lot easier than the first book because when I was writing first book, I was like 21 years old. I was not even in America. I was in South Korea. And I think at the time, I mean, I got to be honest, like really it was a miracle that I got the book out.
Yeah.
But this time it was much easier. And we had a lot of materials even before we approached Simon & Schuster. We got like all the proposals done, chapter names done, contents was all there. It was all about, refining it, I guess. And I think this time it took a lot less time too, and also emotionally less draining than first book. First book was in a way reliving everything. I remember writing things about my father and writing things about in China, my slavery, and the day we wrote about getting out of China to Mongolia, I literally felt like I escaped again.
Yeah, of course.
So the times when I was writing about North Korea, China, and Mongolia, it was like all back to that time. And this time it wasn't as difficult.
One of the things you mentioned in this book, and I've talked about this with other North Korean refugees, and I think it's a very interesting subject, is survivor's guilt. Because the people who escape have it lucky, but the people who are back home don't have it so lucky. And often, and as you know, and you talk about here in your other book, the family members back home are the ones who are going to pay the price. Can you talk a bit about what that's like and how people who are refugees handle that?
Yeah, so it's been very interesting. In the 90s, right, as you know, North Korea had one of the most like horrible modern famines in the 20th century. And during that time, I think hundreds of thousands fled North Korea. And a lot of kotsebis, like the street kids, would be what we call the mothers who would like abandon them to go to China, but they were not abandoning these children. They had to go find food and hoping to come back to North Korea to save their family. But these women having no clue, escaping to China, and then they are falling into the human traffickers and be sold as like livestock, right? So a lot of children were abandoned, so they would go across the river a lot. And initially, Kim Jong-il did not think the defectors was a threat to his regime. He thought they were like harmless. And at some point, it's like, we don't even need all these people. Just let them go if they want to go. And then realizing over time, these defectors, when they go, they were not like forgetting about what happened. They were started talking about their life and the oppression that was happening in North Korea. So then the international community started aware of the human rights abuses that was happening, and the UN started like talking about it. Then Kim Jong-il realized, okay, they are actual threats. Then let's make sure that China send them back to us and we don't let them escape anywhere else. So initially when these people escaped to China in the 90s, and a lot of them were women, And in the eyes of the regime, they thought like women were not as important. And most of women are not even party members. So
Right.
the relatives would not get punished. Unless you're the really high-ranking officer like the Pang Jang-yeol, those people, of course, like 30,000 family members get punished. But if you're bottom class and escaping, it was fine. So when I was escaping, it was 2007. It was still like Kim Jong-il's time. It wasn't as bad of the punishment to the relative. They could just say, we didn't know, they gone away, they might die from starvation. It could work that way. But after Kim Jong-il dies and Kim Jong-un comes to power, he really made it illegal. So he exiles all the family members that left behind. And that's why in the current time you see that literally almost nobody escaping from North Korea anymore. Because of the retaliation got much, much, much severe under Kim Jong-un. And the times when I was escaping, it wasn't really that bad at all.
Folks, your welcome is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. And let's face it, sometimes multitasking can be overwhelming, like when your favorite podcast is playing, the person next to you is talking, your car fan is blasting, all while you're trying to find the perfect parking spot. But then again, sometimes multitasking is easy, like quoting with Progressive Insurance. They do the hard work of comparing rates so you can find a great rate that works for you, even if it's not with them. Give their nifty comparison tool a try. You might just find getting the rate and coverage you deserve is easy. All you need to do is visit Progressive's website to get a quote with all the coverages you want, like comprehensive, collision coverage, or personal injury protection. Then you'll see a Progressive direct rate, and their tool will provide options from other companies all lined up and ready to compare, so it's simple to choose the rate and coverages you like. Press play on comparing auto rates, quote at progressive.com to join the over 29 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy. Hey folks, did you know that traditional bed sheets can harbor more bacteria than a toilet seat and can lead to acne, allergies, stuffy noses, and it is gross? Miracle Made offers a whole line of self-cleaning, eco-friendly bedding such as sheets, pillowcases, and comforters that prevent 99% of bacteria and requires 3 times less laundry. It's got self-cooling properties for better quality sleep using silver-infused fabrics. Originally developed by NASA, Miracle Made sheets are thermoregulating and designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long. Get better sleep every night. Self-cleaning, they're infused with natural silver, which prevents 99.9% of bacterial growth, leaving them cleaner, fresher, 3 times longer than other sheets. And Miracle sheets are comfortable without the high price tag of other brands. Stop sleeping on bacteria. Clean sheets means less bacteria to clog your pores, fewer breakouts, and other skin problems. Go to trymiracle.com/malice to try it today. We've got a special deal for you. Save over 40% and use our promo code MALICE at checkout to save even more, and you get 3 free towels. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/malice. Use the code MALICE to get your 3-piece towel set for free. Save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/malice to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. Let's get back to the show. Yeah, I think that's what people don't appreciate, that they think it's always out of 10, the oppression, but the Kim family always finds new ways to make it worse and to have more control over the people. One of the things you talk about in the book is that a lot of times you go around the world giving speeches and discussing your experience and advocating for the people of North Korea. And the people at these events, you mentioned Hillary Clinton, they're all listening like, oh, this is so great. And then as soon as you're done, they're back to their kind of appetizers and martinis, and they don't care about it anymore. And you specifically were very critical about the UN. Can you speak a bit about your kind of experience in the last few years trying to advocate for the people of DPRK?
So I think that's one of the chapters in the book when I talk about the hypocrisy of the elite. Where, I was very lucky as a North Korean defector, come to America, going to Ivy League school and getting invitations from these places where, even Jeff Bezos, he has a private events called the Campfire. He brings movers and shakers, biggest names like Tom Hanks and Harvey Weinstein. He flew me from New York to the site of the conference in a private Gulfstream jet with the Harvey Weinstein, his family, and other actors in the private, plane. And I go to this conference, and of course they talk about how horrible Trump is. And how like Trump is a threat to the working class people and the minority groups. So in the event, I poured my heart out like this. There are 300,000 North Korean women in China right now. I was sold for like just over $200. My own mother was sold for $65 in the 21st century. The slavery hasn't ended. There's a modern day slavery that's happening, sponsored by CCP, is continuing to this moment. And the people were telling publicly, right? They say silence is violence. Right. They denounce racism. They put the signs of the LGBTQ flag and BLM signs all over. When I talk to them about how China is responsible for this modern day Holocaust, they would tell me, I'm sorry what happened to you, but please don't mention that you know me publicly anywhere.
Wow.
Yeah. And the hypocrisy of this people, they only want to fight for social justice when it's convenient, when it's actually, it has no consequences. Like if you were fighting for gay rights in the 70s, 80s, I mean, that, all my respect for you. You come out saying like, I support gay people, doesn't mean anything. They are all supported already. And right. At this moment, if somebody comes out in that climate saying they support the Northern defectors, we need to hold China accountable. We need to end this modern day slavery. Like denouncing slavery that happened a few hundred years ago in America, that's not justice. That's not how you make the world a better place. Denouncing now is what's important. And I think that's when I really got disillusioned by the American elite and their ideology. Like is so big, biggest irony is that it's so contradicting. What they are saying is not matching with what they are doing.
So in the acknowledgments, you thank a list of people who've been fighting for freedom. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go through some of these names, and I want you to tell me if any of these people have written a book about North Korea and have been advocating for the North Korean people since before you even stepped foot in America, okay? Let's go through this list. Michaela Peterson, has she written a book about North Korea?
No.
Joe Rogan?
No.
Lex?
No.
Patrick Bet-David?
No.
Tim Pool?
No.
Dave Rubin?
No.
Barry Weiss? No?
No.
Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, Melissa Chan, Dinesh. None of these people have written about North Korea, talked about it since 2014?
They talked about it in the last few years' time.
But not since 2014. Douglas Murray, Dennis Prager, Hayden Paul? No, none of these people? No, interesting. Okay, is there any other names you think could have been added to that list maybe?
I added your name, is not there?
No.
Oh my God.
You know what this is? This is Natasha's revenge.
I have no clue.
I'm not in here. And I'm looking at this list and I'm like, Jordan effing Harbinger is getting thanked. And I've been fighting for this since the book came out in 2014, January, 9 years ago.
Right. I really got to check my first draft because I wrote the acknowledgement myself. And then, wow, okay, I'm going to check that again.
Okay, good. One of the other things that you talk about in this book is let's talk about, I don't want to get into too much detail about your relationship. One of the things that Americans don't appreciate is how racist North Korean society is, and Korean society in general. My high school was half Asian, but the Korean kids stuck to themselves. They weren't hanging out with the Chinese kids. If a North Korean refugee makes it to China and they get pregnant, they are violently beaten or forced to miscarry their child. Your ex-husband, who you had a kid with, was Jewish, like myself. Was that?
He was white. He was white American, not Jewish.
Oh, he wasn't Jewish. I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
My first boyfriend was Jewish.
Yeah, okay, I misunderstood. Sorry, that's what I meant. Was that weird? What's that like? Just changing that mindset from growing up and being told you can only be with a Korean person to being open to not being with someone who's not even Korean or not even Asian.
It's dating people. I haven't dated that many people, but few people that I've been dating so far they all from different regions in the world, from different religion, different backgrounds, and they taught me so much, But in North Korea, as you know, right, they are the most racist country. I think that's ever been existed in the human history. That, as you said, if the North Korean women get raped by Chinese and then get pregnant, when they go back, sent back to North Korea, the first thing they check on women is like whether they got pregnant. If they did, they literally inject salt water in their belly to get the forced abortion, or put a panel and then kick women's stomach until baby comes out. Or if the baby comes out despite they're alive, they just, of course, choke the baby and kill them. And this practice continues to this day, and they believe in the pure blood of not even South Korean, North Korean blood. And they do not accept any kind of mixed marriage or mixed blood. So, I mean, coming out, that is freedom, right? We love who we love. And I think people don't really understand how unique that is. You know, like, be with anybody you want, marry. I mean, in America, you literally can marry with anybody now, right? I think a lot of people in the world don't have that luxury and don't even know that's an option.
One of the other things that I found was interesting in the book, and let's talk to your thesis about the book. You were seeing some parallels between American culture and North Korean culture. You also make it a point to say, and I'm very glad you said this, you're like, guys, I'm not saying it's the same thing. Like, let's take a step back, because I remember when Mike Bloomberg, former mayor of New York City, was passing a law that you couldn't get a certain size of soda in 7-Eleven, and Governor Huckabee, who was governor of Arkansas, said, "Oh, what is this, North Korea?" I'm like, you don't have soda in North Korea. Like, before we get to the point where I can only get a 20-ounce Coke, if that was the biggest problem in North Korea, it would be a paradise, you know, compared to what it is now. But can you talk a bit about what these kind of creeping signs you saw, the similarities in mindset between Americans and what you grew up with?
So two main ideology that driving American left currently is the ideology that North Korean regime holds together, right? As their I guess the purpose. The one thing that I was very disturbed is about how America uses race to divide the people, right? If your ancestor was a slave owner because you're white, now you are guilty, you are privileged class. If your skin color is dark, because then you are colonized by other countries, now you're like victim, you're oppressed class. And in North Korea, as you know, that even though we are a homogeneous country, the regime promised the equality of outcomes to everybody and then divided into 51 different classes with the Sungun caste system. And that class was based on what our ancestors did. Like, if my great-grandfather was a landowner, they say my genetics is tainted, my blood is tainted. I have an oppressor blood in my blood. Therefore, forever I'm doomed. And my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren never gonna have a pure blood. And like that in America, there's such a term called white guilt, white privilege, is how North Korean regime uses landowners or capitalists or educated people to divide each other. And this is the thing, it's not about individual anymore, it's about collectivism, collective guilt, right? When one person
and it's not just the guilt of me, it's the guilt of what my grandfather did. And it's also, I'm an immigrant, but it's even though I'm white, my grandfather would, you know, I'm having the same guilt as someone who grew up in Texas.
Exactly.
Or South Carolina.
Oh, don't mention that. I mean, they say when I was trying to argue this at Columbia University with my professors and my students, were like, they say, what do you know about oppression? Because you are a white passing person.
Oh my God.
So they call me.
I also like the idea of telling someone who's actually owned that you don't understand what it was like for slaves 150 years ago. It's like, I understand what it was like for slaves 5 minutes ago. That was me.
Right. So these people who never went through actual slavery and they heard about it, I guess their ancestors went through it, some of them, and not all the Africans, or like there are people moving from Nigeria, right? They were not born in America. But they call me that I don't understand what oppression is because I'm a white passing person. So my skin color just makes me not able to somehow comprehend certain thoughts, right? That's how dehumanizing me because of my skin color. And that is the same tactic that North Korea uses. And not only that, like when I was saying, if I stand up, they go after 3 to 8 generations of North Korean families to punish people. It's not about the individual what you do. It's all about the collective gift, and that is happening in America. And they make us to think about the systemic oppression and all those things. Like Jane Austen, reading her work is a type of brainwashing that we receive. It's because she was living through the era of white colonialism and white supremacy. Reading her work, by de facto, I'm oppressing other people because I am somehow legitimizing her worldview on others. And I think this is also like North Korea says, what everything, if we don't have electricity, because of American ambassadors. We don't have a water, it's because of American ambassadors. In America now, we have problem because of white men, because of the capitalism. Literally the same class materials being taught in North Korea's classroom is being taught in America's classroom. And this is shocking. And this should wake us up. Like, how on earth are we learning the same materials like North Korean kids in our classroom in this free country? That's propaganda. That's indoctrination. And I only went to college in America. I haven't been to elementary school, middle school, and high school. But when I was in the university, everybody was agreeing on this. Nobody was like challenging why capitalism is more just than the socialism, right? Everybody agrees that capitalism is corrupt, greedy, and horrible ideology that we need to dismantle this country because that's the worst evil. And another part that I saw was how North Korea was, right? Like the worst thing is the inequality. And I came to America asking these New Yorkers, and they said they hate America so much. I asked them, what about America that you hate so much? They say, you know what? We have inequality here. And they forget the enemy is poverty, not inequality.
Right.
Do you want to be like North Korea? Everybody's poor and starving and dying, and that's somehow better than some guy became a trillionaire because he innovated things and made the rockets and made it like humanity moving forward scientifically. That's much better than being like North Korea where everybody is equally poor and starving. But American children are brainwashed to think that somehow inequality is that's what's our enemy, not the poverty, right? So I think eventually, of course, we are not like North Korean level. Like if we speak up, our characters assassinated. They denounce you as a racist and right-winger, Nazi, and bigoted person. And North Korea, of course, they execute you. But in America, we have lost so much freedom of speech, especially during the last 3 years, living through the pandemic, and myself getting canceled by the American. I was invited to speak at FBI Dallas last year, and I don't know if you read in the book. 2 days before my speech, the head of diversity calls me and says, "Your political opinions are so controversial. We cannot have you to speak about your experience escaping from North Korea." And the most shocking thing is like when I was becoming American last January, this lady was asking me, "Have you ever persecuted anybody for their political opinion?"
Oh, wow.
If you say yes, you cannot become American. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. Holy crap.
So being American means you cannot persecute other people for their political opinions. So these people don't even know what it means to be American anymore. This is not American values.
Yeonmi, speaking of America and American values, I want to take a moment to talk about another group of Americans that value financial security, and that's Patriot Gold Group. Now, BlackRock is warning to prepare for a recession unlike any other, and history has proven that the only way the Fed can fight inflation is with a recession, and everyone's New Year's resolution is to buy gold and silver. Over 80% of retirees are concerned about inflation and very concerned about the stock market. In 2008, the stock market and housing market crashed. Meanwhile, gold went from 800 an ounce to 1,600 an ounce over the next 2.5 years. And the big banks and billionaires agree on two things. One, we're heading toward a recession. Food prices are going through the roof. Energy bills are skyrocketing. People are getting laid off left and right. Two, investors need to buy gold. Several analysts are predicting these will hit all-time highs. It's the only capital that will be worth something if you know what hits the fan. And what else can you invest in that will hold its value like gold? So the Patriot Gold Group is introducing the 2023 Recession Protection No Fee for Life IRA. You can call the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. You don't want to be that person looking at your 401k crying. You'll get best-in-class service from Patriots protecting Patriots. Patriot Gold Group has the No Fee for Life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold or silver, and you may be eligible for the no fee for life IRA on qualifying rollovers. All you have to do is call 888-505-9845 to get a free investor guide. Mention my name, Michael Malice, or go to malicegold.com. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs top-rated gold IRA dealer 6 years in a row. So call 888-505-9845 or just go to malicegold.com to check out what they're all about. Let me talk a little about this, because the North Korean experience is obviously extremely different from the South Korean experience, to put it mildly. And if you talk to someone from East Asia and you try to kind of put Chinese, Korean, and Japanese in the same bucket, they will look at you like you're a crazy person, because I mean, the animosity between these three groups goes on for far longer than America's even existed. How does it feel for you as someone from North Korea, one of the very few who managed to escape, when you hear people just talk about Asian as one group? And, you know, you want to talk about not being racist, but like, just because you all have similar skin colors, to say someone from North Korea is the same as someone from the Philippines and the same as someone from Laos and someone from rural China, that to me, just that term just seems completely ahistorical and counterproductive.
So that is where I'm arguing in my book, is that we have a right to be wrong.
Sure.
It's the problem is like, it's in North Korea, there's no right to be wrong, right? There's no mercy. If you say the one wrong thing, you get executed. In America, if you say one wrong thing, you get canceled and you lose your job and you lose your dignity in public. I think, of course, like, if people are more educated and know the difference, you know, the nuances of different Asian countries, that's nice, but nobody is obligated to know the difference between Ghana and some Tanzanian African country, or like in Europe, Germany, and France, right? It's far away, and not all of us have a luxury to go around the world and meet these people. And I think this idea of cultural appropriation, all of this is again nonsense. Like, they're not harming you, they're not coming to steal your stuff. Like, leave them alone. Let them be free. If they think that all Asians are the same, and I get that all the time in New York City, walking in Manhattan, they call me ni hao, like konnichiwa all the time, right? They say they're Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, all of it to me, and like, thanks, like, you're very, like, you know, trying hard to make me treat me. It's nice. I don't get offended that somebody called me sensei or like konnichiwa to me. And I think people, like, this is what I learned. Not having a problem is actual problem.
Yeah.
Because there are no real problems a lot of times. It's all made up problems. Like, somehow you create injustice out of thin air. Like, somehow, right? Like, it's like literally a Columbia orientation. They were teaching us about the consent and how to respect and not sexual harassment education. It's mandatory for all of us to attend. And they showed videos explaining to us. There are two, you and I going to Columbia together. And then we go get our drink, have a beer. And at the end of the night, we both agree to have sex. But we had drinks. The next day I wake up, I regret it. And I made the consent under the influence, so I'm gonna call police. Do you think that's a sexual harassment or not?
No, of course not.
It is. Because you're a guy.
Right.
And that is an insult to rape survivors. That's not how rape happens in real life. For them, that is somehow the definition of assault on a woman. And that's when I was like, you guys have lost your mind. You don't really know what injustice looks like in the world. You don't know what actual oppression looks like. So they keep creating problems of like, how to get trigger warnings. The professors were telling us, don't even do the reading, don't even come to the class if this material cannot trigger you. And I'm like, why do you go to university if you cannot handle reading some materials, right? Like, that's not the purpose of education. It's like they teach you how to think, but in a way they're gonna tell you what to think. And if you're not gonna explore it intellectually, you should not even go into university and then tell people that I've been to university. And I think that's what I'm really talking about in the book. Like, people really, I mean, in my eyes as a North Korean, this is pretty crazy. I don't know, it became so normalized to Americans that trigger warnings are somehow a decent thing to do. And like in the classroom, these adult kids cannot handle the class materials, and professors would announce, okay, now we're going to allow the emotional comfort the animals to come to the class. So the puppies are licking your legs around in the classroom because these kids cannot handle living in a Manhattan and getting Ivy League education. They need to have an animal holding on to them to get through the class material. Like, this is like end of civilization, end of humanity. If you cannot handle in the AC classroom, there's no actual threat, there's no starvation, you cannot handle sitting in that classroom, that's a problem.
I know the answer, but I still want to hear the details of it. Talking to someone who has escaped North Korea is a very rare opportunity. And someone who has been through what you've been through both there and in your journey to the West and to freedom. Was there, how much intellectual curiosity, because we're always taught that colleges are a place where you meet people with different backgrounds and you all get together and hash out the issues and learn from one another. And that's regarded as kind of this ideal liberal arts college experience. How much intellectual curiosity was there among your classmates at Columbia about what you had gone through, both as a North Korean citizen and in your journey to the West?
So I met some great friends that I'm gonna be like lifelong friends after Columbia, but it wasn't real connecting on my like North Korean background. We were just like connecting on the human labor, like but there was really no intellectual curiosity. I remember my professor were telling me in the senior seminar class saying there's no difference between men and women, and I said like, well, I'm not a guy. I have a uterus. I have an ovary. I make eggs, and I don't have as much as most index that guys do. And she was saying, who said that you cannot be a man? Who said that you cannot be as strong as men? Like, you are brainwashed. Because I'm from North Korea. So there wasn't like any exploration they want to do with me, why I thought there's a difference between men and women. They were just like completely shutting me down by saying I am brainwashed. And that's when I realized it's like North Korea, when they say math is racist. I remember one of the first lessons in North Korea's class where my teacher saying, Yeonmi, what is 1 plus 1? And I would say 2. And she's looking wrong. My dear leader, Kim Jong-il, when he was a child, discovered that adding 1 drop of water on top of another drop of water, what does it become? It becomes bigger 1. It does not become 2. So that's how math is made up by white men, and it's racist. So that my dear leader proved that theory. And at Columbia, I'm sitting in this Ivy League institution and telling me how math is racist and how science and math and biology are made up by white men, and it's social construct.
That story is in my book, dear reader, and I was talking to Audrey, who's another North Korean refugee, and she was telling me how she's in kindergarten or first grade, so she's like 5 or 6. She's very, very young. And they're telling that story of how Kim Jong-il proved that 1 plus 1 isn't always 2. What a genius. And the teacher in the story is like, oh my God, dear leader, you're so smart. Oh my, I never thought of it that way. And she is sitting in class and she thinks to herself, 5 or 6 years old, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But she knew, smile and nod, oh yeah, this is great. Kim Jong-il is a genius. Yeah. Was that kind of vibe of you have to smile and nod something that you felt in Columbia when the teacher is saying something that you thought was ridiculous and you look around and everyone's like, oh yeah, and you just have to be like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I tried 2 times. I remember trying really 2 times speaking out, raising my hand to asking professor, but every single time I got shunned like that way, like by saying that I'm brainwashed. And everybody was looking at me as if I'm an alien, that I don't think there's a problem with Western capitalism or democracy. And they're just looking at me like, where are you coming from? And I remember that we have a lot of extensive orientations teaching us to how to create Columbia a safe space. That what I say, how I look at somebody, what I say is gonna cause an emotional like discomfort or trigger somebody, I can literally get kicked out from university, So there's an actual threat of not making it if you do disagree with the political correctness. So I think I was like legitimately, yeah, I don't want to fail this class. It's so expensive. Each semester costs so much money for me. I cannot have a luxury to fail at this course and take it again. So it, in a way, that became a, let me just graduate as soon as I can.
One of the things you talk about is, dealing with past trauma and how, North Koreans deal with it a little differently. And I want to expound on that because you in Colombia, as a young woman, is obviously not the same as when you were 5 or 6 in North Korea, where you were very hungry, lack of electricity. You're not leaving any other country. You don't know other countries exist. You're a lot safer. But a lot of times when we deal with incidents that remind us of past times when we were weaker, we kind of go back to that place, and it kind of has that PTSD, almost that traumatic feeling, like, oh my God, I'm back to where I was before. Did you feel that kind of, were you actually triggered by that vibe in the classroom, or were you like, screw this, I'm an American, these people are crazy, and this is ridiculous?
I've got to say that by the third year, I started questioning myself. Like,
Okay.
am I really bigoted? It's like, how can
They got to you.
Right? Like, how come all these smart people, right? They had books when they're born. Like, I didn't have books until I was adult. Like, all these people are so much educated than I am and read so many books than I did. And then think this way, like, I literally at some point, was even questioning myself, like, am I really, really, really bad person?
Okay.
And then, like, it just makes no sense. But the thing is, when everybody disagrees with you, and I'm living in Manhattan, like, everybody literally disagrees with you. I think that's why when I was even writing in my book, right, like, I came and women were telling me, why don't you go test the water? That's how you self-actualize, by dating a lot of people and never take life seriously. College is time to have fun, and like that. Be almost not a slut, but how do you say politely, in a way, like, have sex like men, right?
Yeah.
Like, no consequences, and enjoy yourself. Like, test the water. Like, that's the term they use, like, teaching me how American life is supposed to be as a 21 years old, like, young adult woman. And it was always a thing. Every time I confront something new culture, it was always like negotiating myself. How much am I gonna accept this new culture, and how much the North Koreanness that I had gonna let go, Like, what is the perfect balance? And some people that I know from North Korea, they perfectly remain as a North Korean, and some people become perfectly American. And some people, I think, like me, stay in the middle. They reconcile in some differences, and then still think some parts of North Korean conservatism was okay and gonna keep it. And like, I think I became eventually that, okay, some parts of American freedom is good, but I'm not gonna become this like liberal, free woman in the city and just think that not like taking life seriously is something fun thing to do.
One of the things that I was very interested in learning in your book is that you came to a point where I had been previously, where I think when you and I first started being friends, like, you weren't there yet, and then it looks like you reached that point where you were like, what is the whole point of the UN anyway?
Yeah.
If you on paper,
Mhm.
it is, if there's countries with human rights abuses, the UN is an opportunity theoretically for all these powerful countries to get together and put a stop to it, through whatever means that they can use. And I remember when I was doing my research for Dear Reader, they had condemned North Korea for having labor camps, and the North Korean response was, "We don't use that term, so we don't have any," which is really smart if you think about it a certain way. Can you talk about what led you to your? I know you've done work with the UN. What led you to kind of disillusionment with the UN as agency for protecting human rights?
Yeah, to begin with, the UN is literally the most useless organization I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, wow.
Literally.
Okay.
I have spoken to the UN. I have spoke with the UN Women and General like Assembly in Swiss and Geneva. I presented there. The we at General Assembly meeting, that as all the nations are participating, the diplomats and the ambassadors come there, and like 1.5 or 2 minute speeches each country to represent its own country. And one time when I was speaking, I was representing the NGO to be the voice for the North Korean people. They literally put me right next to North Korean delegation. Because in their dumb mind that somehow geographically I was near them. So they are putting a North Korean defector by herself to the 5 guys from North Korean delegation with their badges on them, dictators on there.
Wait, can you talk about, was that disturbing for you seeing these North Korean officials? Because to be a North Korean official in the UN, you have to be very, very high up in North Korean culture. Your sungbun must be through the roof. Your family's back home as hostages. You really are very, very loyal to the regime. And if you do anything wrong, you will be killed publicly very, very quickly. So these aren't just random people off the street. These are their top guys. What was that like? Did you recognize any of them from your youth? And what was it like sitting next to them?
I never had electricity to looking at the TV, right? It's just not like I could watch TV and know who these people are. But I mean, I know they are like, if I were in North Korea, I would never not even be able to reach them. They are like that high people. It's like I don't think in the West is so much equal here. Like even British monarch is that high, you know?
Right.
Like Harry is a joke almost. Like people just can access it, even monarchy easily. But in North Korea, they are real, like the almost royal king of back in the, I guess, 12th century, that kind of highness people. And they were started swearing at me in North Korean. They
started swearing at you?
Yeah.
What did they say?
It's like like 쌍년, like 미친년, the crazy. I mean, it's just a lot of the about women and how I betrayed, how I'm a traitor. And then I was.
Did you give them the finger, like a good American?
Like, I was shaking because I didn't have a body. I was like, I had nobody there. I went literally, I flew to Geneva myself. I'm presenting there, and I had to go to my hotel room by myself.
And you know what else? If they they got physically violent with you, they would probably get medals back in North Korea. Because look, we beat up this defector. Yeah, they would be accomplishment for them. Yeah.
Even if they kill me, they would get
But
that's when right before when they killed Kim Jong-nam in Malaysia, right? Yeah. So, and then what my thought was that North Korea decides who are the human rights violators.
Yeah.
You know, the Chinese decide who are the human rights violators. We let these dictators to decide who violates the human rights. It's a joke. Like, it doesn't work that way. And I think that's when I realized is in the name of diplomacy, they solve nothing. And they give legitimacies like Chinese government and North Korean regime. And they are part of it. Their vote means as much as American one vote. It shouldn't be that way. Their vote shouldn't mean nothing. And because the UN is a place where everybody can join, even their mafia, their dictators, they can still join equally, in an equal standing. And they are not normal regime. They are like gangsters. They are mafia. And the UN legitimizes them. So they don't do anything. They do so much harm than the good in the world. I just don't know how more people are not realizing this.
Folks, Michael Malice here, podcaster, author, and yes, underwear model. Sheath is something that I wear every day. And the great thing about Sheath underwear is that they have dual pouch technology for both parts of your anatomy. They also have a girls line. I don't wear that stuff. Dave Smith might. Go to sheathunderwear.com and use promo code Malice. You get 20% off. It's great underwear for when it's cold. It's great underwear for when it's hot. And I wear it every single day because it's the best underwear I've ever owned. The first time they brought into the studio, I was like, what is this? And now I swear by it. And in fact, I model for them. It's got added comfort, added performance, added mobility. And there's something a little subversive about talking to someone while the whole time your underwear is cupping your junk. I'm not going to lie. I do enjoy that aspect of it. And folks, they're not just an underwear line. Sheath now has bamboo hoodies and shirts, which are really, really soft. So go to sheathunderwear.com, use promo code Malice. You get 20% off your order. Support the underwear that supports you and that supports the show.
This is Walk-Ins Welcome with Bridget Pettisy.
I love hearing people's stories of resilience and grit. This is why I created this podcast.
We are very excited to welcome Jim Gaffigan, Yasmin Mohammed, Glenn Beck, Tim Dillon, Abigail Schreier, Jeff Garland, Ayan Hirsi Ali, Sam Harris, Heather Hying, Jonah Goldberg, Ben Shapiro, Glenn Greenwald, Sarah Shahi, Colin Quinn.
If there's a culture of victimhood, then let's tell stories of grit and survival.
Subscribe and listen now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Let's get back to the show. One of the other things you talk about in the book was what steps you think people can take in America to kind of reverse this trajectory. Can you talk a little bit more about like what your ideas were?
It's now I'm American and I legitimately scared for my son. You know, he got so screwed. He got a half Asian, half white gene. He's
Bad song bun.
completely be very oppressed. I mean, he's the oppressor blood, right? His
Yeah.
genetics is marked as oppressor. He can never redeemed. There's no mercy, no forgiveness. It doesn't matter. And I mean, what on earth? I had a bad songbun in North Korea. I came. My son has a bad songbun too. This is a fate at this point, right? And another thing is, I think for me, I was really lucky when I was escaping from North Korea. I at least had a country to escape to.
Yeah.
Right? I had a country to go to South Korea and to America. If America falls, like where do we escape to find freedom? Like Americans cannot imagine the world without America. What
Yeah.
this country means for the humanity. This is a beacon of hope. What humans can like achieve. Like I mean, yesterday Biden was talking about possibility. I was like, yes, I agree on that part. This country was testifying to the humanity what is possible for individuals to achieve when they left free from the government and tyranny. And I think for that, we really have to realize the threat of China. I mean, North Korea is a little piece of that big puzzle. I mean, there are Uyghurs in Tibetans in the concentration camps in China. Not only North Koreans are enslaved, not their only organs not getting out of them. The Uyghurs, their organs getting out of them too. So this is an international. This is humanity's biggest challenge that we are facing. And if we do not stop China, I don't know when we will ever have a chance to stop them. We need to hold them accountable. And only America has that power, unfortunately.
One of the things I was very hopeful when President Trump made North Korea one of his big foreign policy issues. When he went to visit with Kim Jong-un, you know, all the articles seem to be about trying to make Trump out to be an asshole, which is fine. But my only concern in that situation isn't Trump or Kim Jong-un. It was the North Korean people. And if there's any opportunity for things to get better, I remember vividly, and I'm sure you remember as well, when Trump had the State of the Union, he had the defector, and the audience was holding up his crutch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a very emotional moment. But that kind of fizzled away. And then like everyone just stopped talking about it. And while everyone stopped talking about it, the ongoing tyranny in North Korea has continued without pause. I know they closed their borders to tourism for quite some time yet. I don't know what's going on there with COVID. Do you have any kind of information about how things are in North Korea today as they were, let's say, 4 years ago?
Yeah, I do have some people under the ground who has with the Chinese cell phone to contact with. The border is completely sealed. Like the whole country became a concentration camp. The Chinese side, the facial recognition cameras, the border security got much tighter on Chinese side and the North Korean side. The country can't afford electricity. They put the wire fences around the entire border. They bury the landmines, and they evacuated the citizens from the river several miles in back. And
Wait, and let me interrupt you, because I think according to the UN, landmines are like a human rights violation. Like it's illegal to have landmines, I think, anywhere on earth. I thought this is a big issue with Paul McCartney's ex-wife, but they have landmines there to keep people in. Who cares, right? It's their problem, right? Go ahead.
They bury landmines for their own citizens to die from.
Yeah.
And so now literally escaping from North Korea became literally impossible. Nobody can escape the country. And inside the country, North Korean regime has this ideology where it's easy to do socialism when there are less people. And this really resonates with me that currently how this climate change activists, how humans are disease. We are the poison to this world. And having babies are dangerous. Like we are polluting the world, and we should have less people. And North Korea always believed that having less people was easier to do socialism. So their idea is, as long as we can keep the 10% alive in Pyongyang, we are not gonna do a thing about why the 90% of the population is dying off from starvation or disease.
Yeah, there's actually a quote from Kim Jong-il. I have him in my book where he says explicitly, having too many people makes socialism difficult.
Yeah.
And Sungbun, what people in America don't appreciate or might not know, is like you said, everyone in North Korea has a caste system, whether you're favorable or hostile or wavering, and that determines where you live, but that also determines where they send food.
Yeah.
And if the people who are hostile, or because their grandfather maybe was a capitalist and now they starve to death, that's not a problem. That's solving a problem, because now we don't have to worry about them.
Yeah, they die off. They don't need that many people. So it's a very same ring that tone that I hear is happening here at Columbia universities, and professors will just openly say how humans are disease, and like humans are made in the image of God. That's what American Constitution says. We are not disease. We are not toxic, and they say what we are. And in North Korea, like that, they have no respect for human life. So currently, these lockdowns are affecting does not affect Kim Jong-un, obviously. It doesn't affect the elite. It's affecting the people. And in the last few years, the cannibalism is coming back. The ones that happened in the 90s during the famine, that when I was a toddler, it's coming back, and things got that dire and desperate. And to the point that people oppressed is like, somehow each Kim managed to become worse and worse and compared to the before Kim. And like, I don't know if you've seen the pictures of Kim Jong-un's daughter, who literally just got up, become public, who's like 9 years old. She's so fat kid. And almost it looks like they don't even try to hide it anymore. They look like the royalty. At least Kim Jong-il's time, he was wearing this working mouse jacket and tried to look like a working class, He wouldn't like wear the fancy leather jackets and like fur. They would be like trying to at least like sit with the people on the floor and showing the pictures of like how they're starving with the North Korean people. Like that's a song I was keep singing. Dear leader, please take a nap. Please eat some food. I was believing that he was starving just like us. And then now with Kim Jong-un, they don't even care. They don't even bother anymore to put up that like propaganda.
Yeah, they think they're Harry and Meghan.
Yeah, it's a completely.
I remember I read a book, I forget which one what it was, where someone was in the countryside and the people were in rags and they're starving, and they were sending rice to Pyongyang, to Kim Jong, I think Un at the time, because they're like, oh, it's better that he has some food than for us. And it's just like, to the extent to which, and you were the one who had to point out, because when you're kind of like when a fish is in water, they don't realize they're in water. When someone had to point out, how is he hungry if he's so fat? And you're like, oh yeah, wait a minute, you're right, doesn't make sense. I've never seen a fat person.
Yeah, exactly. You're so brainwashed. I was so brainwashed. I was not able to see that because the critical thinking was never practiced for North Korean child. And in America, I can see like the critical thinking is so gone in American education system too. They cannot see this irony, the hypocrisy, and the danger. What they are saying, they're like, in the name of social justice, they're literally crazy. And like in North Korea, they never taught us how to think. They never taught us what critical thinking means and open debate means. And people have no ability to like conceive that to the reality like that.
So there was a story you told me privately that was also in the book. You're living in Chicago, and one of the, every 6 months there's a new campaign, and there was a big campaign against Stop Asian Hate, right? You were the victim of a violent mugging, and rather than people being like Stop Asian Hate, you were called racist for this. Are you still living in Chicago?
I moved to New York.
oh, that's wonderful. Okay, that's not much better.
Right here. No, New York is pretty bad today.
Yeah, I had to get out of there as well. So can you tell that story from the book?
So I was the first year of pandemic during the BLM protests when George Floyd died that summer. I was walking down the streets of Chicago, broad daylight, the Michigan Avenue, it's like the Fifth Avenue of Manhattan, right? I was walking out with my son, and my nanny was pushing the stroller. This several black women comes up and punch me and take my wallet. And then I was trying to call the cops.
Oh, just one more thing. You're not even 100 pounds still.
No,
so it's not like you're some big, tough sumo wrestler, to put it mildly.
I'm like less than 80 pounds. I'm literally like 77, 78 pounds. Like tiny person walking on the street, get beat up by these big black women. And then I started calling the cops on them. And the people on the street literally circle around me and calling me I'm a racist. And the person's skin color would not make them a thief. It's just like for them, the only thing they could see was skin color, nothing else. And that's when I really realized the ideology I was thinking somehow only trapped in the university, it wasn't. It ran outside. And then they said I'm a racist to call the cops on these people, and they are not thieves. Like, they literally see me being punched and my wallet taken out from them. They would just refuse to see the facts. So, I mean, as you know, whenever the New York Times is willing to cover the hate Asian crime is when the white person kills the white Asian person, not when the black people do. And a lot of black people, actually, they are the number one people, I think, harming Asians right now. So this is not a story. But the thing is, like, I'm not like those people that try to racialize everything. Everybody can be a rapist. Everybody can be a murderer. Everybody can be a thief. It's not about skin color. The fact is that somebody's getting hurt and you refuse to hurt because they are in the wrong skin color. Because I have an oppressor skin color, right? So I don't deserve the help. I do not deserve justice. And that breaks my heart, like raising a child in this country. Because of your skin color, you do not deserve sympathy. You do not deserve the equality of law.
I hope you come to visit Austin and I can take you to the range so you can shoot guns like anti-Japanese heroine Kim Jong-suk, who is, I'm sure, your idol. And if you're really, really nice, I'll let you touch that book and then you'll never wash that hand again. I hope your book is an enormous success. It's called While Time Remains. I love this cover. Yeonmi, we're running out of time. What has been your favorite part of this interview?
I love your humor. It's the most. We talk about something so dangerous and dark. Like the title of the book is "While Time Remains," right? I'm trying to warning Americans, but you made it so delightful. Thank you.
Okay. You are welcome.
All month long on Pluto TV, stream the biggest Tyler Perry movies free. Watch your favorites like Medea's Witness Protection and Medea's Big Happy Family. Join Tyler Perry as he goes on a couples retreat with Sharon Leal in Why Did I Get Married? Or Idris Elba and Gabrielle Union in the Tyler Perry directed film Daddy's Little Girls. Plus, Pluto TV has hundreds of channels with thousands more movies and TV shows. Available on live and on demand. Download the free Pluto TV app on all your favorite devices and start streaming now. Pluto TV. Drop in, watch free.